going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm not a fan of Valentine's Day. For me, it's just an excuse to raise the prices and break people's hearts, and also, you should always be telling your loved ones that you love them every single day, not just one day. Just wanna put my unpopular opinion out there. I got plenty of them, so. Anyway, let's jump into what we came here to talk about. We have some bit of sad news to start out. Nationals owner Ted Lerner has passed away at the age of 97. He took over the team, I believe, in 2006 is when he bought the team, and they haven't had a ton of sustained success, but they were a lot. In the early Expos days, they were very good. Then they kind of fell off, and they couldn't get fans to go to games. And then they moved to Washington, and then he learned about the team, but he brought something. He made them at least somewhat relevant. He did win of course he does help build that World Series team in 2019. It seems like as soon as they won the World Series, they almost tore the team apart. You had Max Scherzer isn't there anymore. Nor is Bryce Harper was not on that team, but they weren't able to retain him. Trey Turner is not there anymore. Nor is Juan Soto. Anthony Rendon is not there anymore. Steven Strasburg is I'm not even sure if he qualifies as there anymore. He's been injured basically ever since that season. It seems like Patrick Corbin isn't good anymore, but he did win a World Series with them. So rest in peace, Ted Lerner. Before I continue with anything, I just want to say there was a shooting at the Michigan State University campus. All athletic activities are canceled for the next, I believe, 2 days. Just want to send my thoughts and prayers to everyone involved in that. Nestor Cortez is not going to be pitching for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. Unfortunately, he's got a hamstring strain. He's going to be out for 2 weeks, so he's in Mr. World Baseball Classic. That's a tough blow for Team USA, who's got an incredible lineup and a very good bullpen, but the rotation isn't probably the biggest. Still, it's good, but it's not fantastic. And arguably their best starter is not gonna pitch from the World Baseball Classic. I said yesterday I don't like the World Baseball Classic. It's just an opportunity for guys to get hurt. But of course I want to see the USA win. And only got a bit of baseball news. Cardinals extended their team president job Mozek through 2025. He's done a good job there. Those last few years hasn't been quite the same. They haven't spent as much money, hasn't had as much success. For years they were always competing for championships. They're always signed the biggest names. They're always making smart moves. The one guy that comes to mind that they didn't pay and retain was Albert Pujols, which is the right move. Pujols, of course, is one of the greatest right-hand hitters of all time, but he really never lived up to that $240 million deal the Angels gave him. His best years were obviously in his first stint in his career with St. Louis. But overall, he has done a good job there. He's extended through 2025. On to hockey. Scores from last night. You had the Senators over the Flames, 4-3. Predators over the Wild, 2-1 in a shootout. Oh, by the way, the Flames Senators wasn't overtime. Senators when we win in overtime. Coyotes over the Predators, 4-2. And the Red Wings over the Canucks, 6-1. And the Kings over the Sabres, 5-2. Take a look at the standings. Not too much has changed. So Boston, Carolina, Jersey, Toronto, Tampa, and the Rangers, Washington, Pittsburgh in the East. Now, Florida gets within a point of Pittsburgh. Islanders are still a point out. Buffalo is 2 points out. Detroit is playing pretty well. Points in 7 of 10. Six of those are wins. They're only 5 points out. Even Philly, the Flyers, are only 7 points out. But Philly sports, they're having a tough time. The Eagles just lost in the Super Bowl. The Phillies lost in the World Series. The Philadelphia Union is like a MLS soccer team. They lost in the championship. The Flyers probably aren't going to make the playoffs. The Sixers are probably, I think, might be a second round exit in NBA. These teams are like good enough to be not horrible, but not good enough to win a championship. They're either losing the finals or they're awful, like the Flyers. Then you have Ottawa, they are 8 points out of a spot, and then Montreal and Columbus right out the Eastern Conference. In the West, so have Dallas. Was really tight. You got Dallas, Vegas, Winnipeg, and the Kings have the same amount of points, but Winnipeg has 2 games in hand. Then you got Seattle, who now falls behind the Kings with 65 points. Edmonton, same amount of points as Seattle, but Seattle's got a game in hand. Minnesota is in 7th. Calgary's in 8th. Both have 61 points, but Minnesota's a game in hand. Colorado drops out of the postseason. They are a point behind Minnesota and Calgary. Nashville is 5 points out. And the Blues are falling 10 points out. And, of course, you have that, quintuple, whatever you want to call it. Vancouver, San Jose, Arizona, Anaheim, and Chicago, of course, are completely out of it. West is really tight. The 1 seed right now is with Dallas Stars. The 8th seed right now is the Calgary Flames. The Flames are 9 points out of first place. Hell, the Colorado Avalanche are not even in the playoffs right now. They're the 9th best team in the West. So they are the first team out of the playoffs if the season ends today. And they are just 10 points out of the first seed. That's 5 wins out of the top seed in the West. And then you go to the East, you have the 8th seed is the Penguins, and they are 22 points behind the first seed Boston Bruins. That's crazy. Got the 9 seed in the West, the Colorado Avalanche, is 10 points behind the first place Dallas Stars, and then you have in the East, you have the Tampa Bay and New York Rangers are 5 and 6, both have 70 points. Tampa's got a game in hand. They are 13 points out of first place, and they're ranked 5th and 6th. And they're further from first place in their conference than Colorado is. Colorado is not even in the postseason right now. That's just crazy. Time for some college basketball scores. Big upset. Texas Tech beats number 6 Texas in, of course, that big rivalry game, 74-67. Tech has, of course, recently fired their head coach, Chris Beard, after he had some off-the-court issues. Number 9 Baylor over West Virginia, 79-67. And number 15 Miami over North Carolina, 80-72. UNC's had a tough time. Of course, it's their second year without Roy Williams since he retired. They came in last year. They were the number 1. They were in the national championship, and this year came in ranked number 1 in the country, and they're not even ranked. They're 16-10. Might struggle to even make the tournament. They're having a tough time. Let's talk some NBA scores from last night. Hornets over the Hawks in a shootout. 144-138. LaMelo Ball, 30 points, 15 assists. LaMelo Ball, he's had a bunch of injuries this year. People forget. This guy's a baller. A rising star in this league. Cavs over the Spurs, 117-109. Donovan Mitchell dropped 41 points. Jazz over the Pacers, 123-117. LaMarcus, 29 points and 11 rebounds. Sixers over the Rockets, 123-104. James Harden, 28 points, 10 assists. Nuggets over the Heat, 112-108. Jokic, 27 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists. Jokic should be the MVP. Dude didn't have Jamal Murray last night. Obviously they traded Bones Highland for whatever reason. I'm going to get to some of these other trades I didn't quite cover on Friday when I had Justin on in a few minutes. Michael Porter Jr., I believe, is there. I mean, him being there and another player being there are 2 different things because it feels like he's never there. And he drops a near triple-double on the Miami Heat. Dude's insane. Knicks over Nets, 124-106. The streak is over. The Knicks had lost 9 straight games to the Nets. They finally beat the Nets. Actually, the first time they've beaten Ben Simmons. I didn't realize that. That's pretty funny. Jalen Brunson dropped 40 points. Please get him as a replacement in the All-Star game. I know Kyrie probably, I can't imagine he'll be able to play in the East since he's now in the West. He just got traded to the Dallas Mavericks. I know they already named their, Pascal Siakam a replacement for Kevin Durant. Joel Embiid's going to start. Please get Brunson in the All-Star game. Dude's dropping numbers. But Josh Hart, 20 off the bench. Great debut for Josh Hart. He's wearing John Stark's number, so that's some big shoes to fill. That number. Magic over the Bulls, 100-91. Markelle Fultz actually had 18 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. Bulls, they haven't really been that good, to be honest, since Jordan and Pippen, obviously. They had some good years when they had Thibs as their coach, and then you had D. Rose in his prime, and Joakim Noah, and the young Jimmy Butler, Luol Deng, but something's wrong with that team. Pelicans over the Thunder, 103-100, bringing on 34 points. By the way, Zion aggravated his injuries. He's going to be out at least several weeks after the All-Star break, so tough break for Zion. That guy, he's so talented and so athletic and so freaking good. When he's on the court, He's probably when he's healthy, probably a top 15, top 20 player in the league at least top 20, not top 15 player in the league. Could if he's totally healthy, could be top 10 within 2 years, and could be a top 3 player in the league honestly within 5 or 6 years. But he's never healthy. What a shame. Timberwolves over the Mavericks, 124, 121. Anthony Edwards, 32 points. Kyrie and Luka did combine for 69 points. He had 36 from Kyrie and then 33 from Luka, but those two together have not won a game yet. They're 0-2. Oh yeah, the Warriors beat the Wizards 135 to 126. Andrew Wiggins 29 points and 7 rebounds. And you had the Blazers over the Lakers 127-115. Dame had 40 points. LeBron had his ankle injuries that might linger the whole year. What else is new with LeBron missing game for these soft tissue injuries? AD did 19 points, 20 rebounds, and 3 blocks in the game. So he's not hurt yet. AD, we'll see what happens. Talk about the standings, then we'll get into some more trades that I didn't talk about on Friday. Celtics still lead in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee's won 10 in a row. They're just a game and a half behind Boston in the Eastern Conference. They have won 10 in a row. If Milwaukee's healthy, they could easily win it all this year. My pick is still Boston, but Giannis a top 3 player in the league. If Middleton and Drew Holiday are healthy, with how good they are defensively, how well they can knock down shots, how much chemistry of a trio of Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday is, that team can definitely. Well, they've won 10 straight games. Wow. Yeah, Philly is in 3rd. The Cavs are hot. Cavs won 7 in a row. They are in 4th place. Nets in 5th. The Heat are in 6th. Knicks first playing team, they're in 7th. They're a half game behind Miami for the 6th spot. Got Atlanta at 500 is 8th. Toronto's 4 games below 500, they're in 9th. And Washington's 4 games below 500, they're in 10th. Got the Bulls are a half game out of the play-ins. The Pacers are 2.5 games out of the play-ins. They're falling apart. They've lost 5 in a row, 9 of 10 after a great start to the year. Magic are 3 games out of the play-ins. They got a lot of young talent, man. That'll be nice to see if they can sneak in and grab a 10 seed. And then Charlotte and Detroit round out the Eastern Conference. In the West, you got the Denver Nuggets, still reigning supreme in top of that conference, led by Nikola Jokic. Memphis are in 2nd. They haven't really been playing there for a while now, but they are in 2nd. Kings are in 3rd. They're actually only 2 games out of 2nd. Memphis really isn't playing that well. Phoenix has been playing a lot better. Obviously, you just got KD. He's still injured. They'll get him back in a couple of weeks. You got your guys healthy. You got Devin Booker back. Suns are in 4th. You got the Dallas and the Clippers tied for 5th and 6th. First playing team right now is the Pelicans. Then you got Minnesota. Golden State in 9th, a game over 500. And Utah game below 500 is the 10th spot. They are, Portland's right there. They've played 2 less games in Utah. The only reason they're not in right now. The Thunder are a half game out of the play-ins. The Lakers are 2.5 games out of the play-ins. Keep crying, LeBron. And the Spurs and Rockets round out the Western Conference. This is really tight. The 5 through 10 seeds are only 5.5 games apart from each other, and the 4 through 10 seeds are only 2.5 games apart from each other. That's crazy. It is very tight in the West. Okay, now let's go through all the trades. I talked about a bunch of them. I talked about pretty much all the major ones on Friday and throughout the week last week. But the small ones didn't touch on a ton of the small ones. Let's talk about them. Jakob Poeltl went to the Raptors, where he started his career. The Raptors send Kem Birch, a 2024 first and 2 seconds the other way to the Spurs. I think a pretty good trade. That gives the Raptors, they need depth very badly. If they weren't going to sell off Van Vliet and OG Anunoby, even Pascal Siakam for that matter, I guess you add some depth, which they get. Poeltl is basically an upgrade over Kem Birch as your number 2 center, and they give up a couple of picks. The first rounder isn't even this year. You never know. I mean, last year they were sixth in the East last year. They have a good core. There's no reason then next year if they jump into the top 5, their first round pick next year might not be that high. Obviously, this year it could possibly dip into the lottery. Could be, 12, 13, 14, could be maybe even lower, could be a lottery pick. But next year it could easily be, even could not be very high in the NBA when you're competing for championships or even competing even when you're a yearly playoff team. First round picks really don't matter. You're very very fun even outside of the lottery. I'm not saying you can't. I mean, Nikola Jokic is might win his third straight MVP this year. He was like one of the last 15 picks of the draft. Giannis was like a mid first round pick, and he's gonna go down as one of the greatest players of all time probably. So you even a guy like Monta Ellis, who's a solid player for a while, and people joke about him. The end of his career wasn't very good, but in his peak, he was actually a very underrated guy. He was a very very late round pick. So, there's been guys. It's happened, but it's very rare. Just because, obviously MLB there's a zillion rounds, NHL there's a zillion rounds, NFL there's 7 rounds, NBA there's only 2 rounds. So outside of lottery, you're usually not gonna find a ton of value. No, you're very rarely find a star outside of lottery. Outside of Giannis and Jokic, there's the only 2 stars you've really found outside of lottery. You might be able to find some role players, some bench players, maybe a solid starter outside of lottery, but you're very, very rarely going to find a star outside of lottery. Outside of Giannis and Jokic are, of course, like I said, the 2 exceptions to the rule, I guess. The Celtics pick up Mike Muscala in a trade. So Celtics, they want another big man. You got Robert Williams, who's really good, but he's got a lot of injury concerns. You have Al Horford, who's still pretty good. He's much older now, but still a solid player. Fits very well with the Celtics team. But they need one more big man, especially with Rob Will's injuries. Al Horford at times had to play a lot more minutes than he should, and they get that third big man to fill out their big man rotation. And Mike Muscala. The guy they really wanted was Jakob Poeltl. They made Toronto an offer. Toronto said no. I think the second guy on the list was Mo Bamba. Didn't get him either. So they went to their third best option, Mike Muscala, who is a pretty good player. He's a little underrated. He's a very good rebounder. He's famous. He had like that crazy 20 rebound game a few years back with the Thunder, and he went, "I love the rebound." It was very funny. But he's a good rim protector. He can shoot the 3 a little bit. Which is very impressive for a guy his size. He's a good rim protector, good rebounder, could shoot it, but he's a nice player. It's a nice piece to pick up. Bucks pick up Jay Crowder. They got 5 seconds for him. I thought that was each way. That was a good trade. The Nets get him in the KD trade, and then they didn't get good enough players back for KD, but all right, they figure all right, he's we're going into a kind of a retooling phase. He doesn't fit that, so they move him. They get 5 second-round picks for Jay Crowder. It is a good move, and the Bucks Crowder is definitely a good fit. Veteran. He's gritty veteran. He's an older guy. Brings a lot of playoff experience. Good defender. Can shoot the 3 a tiny bit. 3-and-D guy. He's a perfect fit for Milwaukee. And then you have Thomas Bryant goes to the Nuggets, and Lakers ship him out to Denver to get back Devin Reed, and then they get back a couple seconds. That was a smaller deal, so Denver gets some depth behind Nikola Jokic, who's got nicked up here and there, since a game here or there, because he's playing so many mans with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. never being there. So I think this, they just wanted somebody behind him until, it's not, they don't have to play DeAndre Jordan, who's like half dead, like 65 years old, it looks like, can't get up and down the court anymore. At least Thomas Bryant, who's also not that good, but, a serviceable backup center at least. Lakers pick up Matisse Thybulle from Portland. That's a nice move. Thybulle's going to be a restricted free agent. Probably is going to get overpaid. Philly didn't want to deal with that, so they move him to Portland. Matisse Thybulle is one of the best defenders in the league. Portland's really bad defensively. That's a nice pickup for Portland. He's still very young. Hopefully they can re-sign him. Indiana reactive George Hill. Milwaukee just shipped him out. They don't really need him. And he goes back to Indiana, where he was on the Indiana team that almost beat LeBron. Almost beat LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals. Clippers pick up Bones Highland for a couple second-round picks. That's a really good move. He's a young player, only in his second year. I didn't get the trade on Denver's part. That's a nice pickup for the Clippers. Clippers picked up some nice pieces. They picked up Eric Gordon, who's a very good shooter on the bench from Houston. No, obviously, and then you get John Wall out of there. You pick up Bones Highland from Denver. Didn't give up a lot in that. Didn't give really a lot in either trade. Clippers did a nice job. If Kawhi and PG are healthy, and then you had Bones Highland, you had Eric Gordon, you got your other guys. Your Reggie Jacksons. Ivica Zubac, Terrence Mann, these other guys. Clippers are a team that I don't think they're a championship contender, but if Kawhi and PG show up in the playoffs, especially the way Kawhi can. Paul George, 2 years ago when they lost to Dallas, he was horrible. But last year, I thought he actually played. He was much better. He actually played very well. That's, of course, they didn't have Kawhi. And Kawhi, in the Dallas series, he did not play well. But outside of that, but in San Antonio and Toronto, the dude was unstoppable. His postseason performance in Toronto was amazing. So Clippers could be a tough out in the playoffs here. We'll see what happens. Terry Spazio, OKC sent them to Phoenix. That's just a depth move for Phoenix. Of course, they did lose a little bit of depth. You trade, 3 players. Crowder wasn't playing, but you trade Bridges and Cam Johnson. Need some wing depth, so they get that. Picking up Baisley. The 4-team trade with Gary Payton has gone through, so the Warriors reunited with Gary Payton II, who they had last year. He's a great defender. He's going to be out of about a month with the facial fracture. James Wiseman goes to Detroit. This guy, 3rd overall pick about 3 years ago, has never been able to get on the court. Hasn't really gotten a lot of minutes. I know a lot of Pistons fans are upset about it. I did talk about this one on Friday, I know, with Justin, and then I know Redbox joined us. I want to talk about it again. I understand why the Detroit Pistons fans are upset, because, they got a bit of a center logjam. You already have Jalen Duren, who drafted 10th overall this year. You have Isaiah Stewart there, who's recently a first-round pick. You have Marvin Bagley, who's at this point has been a complete bust, who's being the second pick by the Kings. But he's played a little bit better in Detroit. I know he's hurt, but they just gave him a multi-year extension. And they get the number 1 pick. They're going to draft Wembanyama. That's probably, at this point, they're probably just tanking for him at this point. So it's you don't need all these centers. But Wiseman was a beast at Memphis. He's all the talent in the world. And also, he was a top 3 pick. Normally when you're a top 3 pick, you're from day one, you're playing 30 minutes a game, you're starting, they're letting you play, the team is not expected to be good. But the Warriors, because the Warriors came off, a run where they were in the finals 5 years in a row and won 3 times. And that one off here, you lose Durant, and then you get rid of Iguodala, and Steph missed most of the year, and Clay didn't play. So you basically, you had like a Jordan Poole before Jordan Poole was good. You were playing God knows who. So obviously they had the worst record, one of the worst records in the league, and they ended up getting the 3rd pick. And then all of a sudden, you get Steph back, you get Clay back. Of course, Draymond's there. All of a sudden, Jordan Poole remembers how to play basketball. Andrew Wiggins figures out how to play in their system. You add all the depth you had with Otto Porter and Gary Payton II. All of a sudden, this is a top 5 team in the West that's right back in the title mix. Of course, and they're winning a title, so they draft Wiseman. Wiseman thinking, oh yeah, top 3 pick, let's go. And then he meets Steve Kerr, like, yeah, you're going to be our backup center. You're going to play 10 minutes a game. It's like, what? So I think it was a weird transition for Wiseman to have a tenure he had at Memphis. He was like the superstar 5-star the Memphis gets. Penny Hardaway lures him to Memphis, and then he had the injury. Then he had the whole recruiting violation. He got suspended. That whole weird thing. And then he came back. He played a couple of games. And he decided, he's like, why should I even play? I'm going to be a top 3 pick. I'm going to be at worst a 3rd pick in the draft. I'm just going to sit out so I don't get hurt. So like he was probably a little rusty. So yeah, he came into the league rusty because he hadn't played a ton of basketball, and he didn't get to play a ton in Golden State. So I think now Detroit, who obviously sucks, they're the worst team in the Eastern Conference. They're a bottom 4 team in the league. They're gonna have a shot at a number 1 pick. Now that he can have a chance to go up there and just play, I think that's gonna be really good for him. He's definitely a project. be patient with him. But he is still so young and so raw, and he is truly very talented. So, Detroit, give Wiseman a chance. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You give up 5 second-round picks for him. Those picks, the Warriors might not get a single pick out of that. And they're not even the Warriors picked anyway, because they sent them to Portland for what they're paying anyway. And Sadiq Bey goes to Atlanta. He's a young player who, I don't think he'll be a star, but a very good three-point shooter that Atlanta picks up. So the Warriors get, to recap, Warriors get Gary Payton II. Detroit gets James Wiseman. Atlanta gets Sadiq Bey. And Portland gets 5 second-round picks. So the Warriors got those from Detroit for Wiseman and sent them to Portland for Gary Payton II. Yeah, Houston picked up Justin Holiday. He's expected to get bought out. He's a nice 3-and-D guy. Houston's buying everyone out. They bought out, for some reason, they got, on the why they got John Wall back. That made no sense. They bought him out. They got Danny Green in the trade. God knows why. Got him from Memphis. He wasn't playing anyway. He's been hurt. He was in the G League. They bought him out. He's now in Cleveland. And then they got Justin Holiday, and the Rockets just decided, they're just picking up. They're just all right. Give us a player, we'll buy and then some extra draft picks, and then the player comes to Houston, or they look at Raphael Stone like, it's like, I want to be here. They're like, well, you're getting bought out anyway, so see ya. And in that Eric Gordon trade, it was a 3-team trade with the Rockets, the Clippers, and the Grizzlies. So the Clippers pick up Eric Gordon, who, thank God he's off that team. He's been like asking for a trade for 3 years now. He does not want to be there. He's pissed. He's always looks pissed off. Finally free. He can help a contender. Jamal goes back to the Rockets for some reason, like I said, but he's now on the open market. And the Grizzlies pick up Luke Kennard from the Clippers. That's a nice pickup. Kennard is very underrated shooter. Actually, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. He's still young. His contract isn't anything crazy. That's a nice pickup for Memphis. If they can get some 3-point shooters around John Morant, they need more of those. They need more 3-point shooters around John Morant, and they got one in Kennard. That's a very underrated pickup for the Memphis Grizzlies. Lakers and Magic make a trade. Lakers got Mo Bamba. They send Pat Bev to Orlando, who's been bought out. I think that was a good move. Pat Bev was really never a good fit for the Lakers. But they need a point guard that can score. Pat Bev ain't it. The Lakers did do a good job. I'll give them that. But you swap out Pat Bev with D'Lo. D'Lo, obviously, it's where he started, so he knows the organization. It's a much different team, and different coach. And obviously, Magic Johnson isn't running the show, but Rob Pelinka is still there. So he's familiar, much better fit for Lakers. He's a guard that can definitely score. Pat Bev is not. Pat Bev's only there for his defense. And you pick up some much needed depth. You get him with Malik Beasley, who can also shoot the ball. And then your center depth really was pretty poor. A lot of times you were playing AD center, and after that you had Thomas Bryant and Damian Jones. So you send out Thomas Bryant and Damian Jones and pick up Jared Vanderbilt and Mo Bamba. Bamba, much sure he's gonna be with a top 10 pick. I mean, he's known for that like really cringe song that came out 4 years ago. Mo Bamba, host calling. But he can still protect the rim. He can shoot three a little bit for a 7-footer. Is impressive. So that was a smart move by the Lakers, and Orlando was able to unload him. Josh Richardson gets sent from the Spurs to the Pelicans. He's a pretty good 3-point shooter. I think on a contender playing 10 to 15 minutes game, he can make a couple threes. And then Clippers and Hornets make a swap. Clippers send Reggie Jackson. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this, to Charlotte. Clippers pick up Mason Plumlee. Plumlee, not that good, but he's an okay backup center. And the Hornets pick up Reggie Jackson, who got bought out, and he signed, I believe in Denver. He signed. Yeah, he signed to Denver. So Jackson, he's not a starter while the Clippers were using him as, but he is I think a solid backup point guard, veteran leadership, playoff experience, can score a little bit, can shoot the ball a little bit. He's a pretty good player. So that's the NBA trade deadline. That's what I got for that. And the NBA 3-point contest participants were revealed. It is Jason Tatum, of course, from the Celtics. Kevin Herter from the Kings. He's a sharpshooter. Tyler Hero from the Heat. Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers. Buddy Hield, who's also on the Pacers, Dame Lillard from the Blazers, who I'm sure we consider the favorite, his teammate Anthony Simons, and Lauri Markkanen from the Jazz, so actually a pretty stacked field this year for the 3-point contest. On to football, the Indianapolis Colts have hired Shane Steichen. That's their next head coach, offensive coordinator of the Eagles. He did a very good job. He was coordinator with the Chargers before he went to the Eagles over the last 2 years. He's done a really good job. Obviously did an amazing job with the Eagles offense this year. I think that's a good choice. They get an offensive-minded guy for probably a young quarterback they're going to draft with the 4th pick. Maybe they even draft to get the top pick. We'll see. I think it's a good choice. Ravens hired Todd Monken as their offensive coordinator. I think he's a better fit than Greg Roman. You know, he did a good job in Tampa as the offensive coordinator. He's done a great job at Georgia as the offensive coordinator. He got Stetson Bennett some recognition. Now he goes to the Ravens. We'll see what they do with Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens bring him in as their offensive coordinator. The Carolina Panthers hire Jim Caldwell as a senior assistant. So I like what Frank Reich's doing with his staff. He brings in Ejiro Evero as a defensive coordinator. He did a great job in Denver last year. He was getting some head coach interviews. Now brings in Caldwell as an assistant coach. He's a guy who should get another shot to be a head coach. You know, he's a very good coach. I like the staff that Frank Reich is bringing in. We'll see what happens. Appears the favorite for the Arizona Cardinals job is the Eagles' defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. Most of the guys they knew are not available anymore. Brian Callahan, the Bengals offensive coordinator, is no longer in the running. Obviously, Ejiro Evero, took the defensive coordinator job in Carolina. Flores, Brian Flores, turned down the second interview and became the defensive coordinator of the Vikings. That wasn't a good fit anyway. I've mentioned that many times. Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, who we thought could get the job, he's out of the running. Obviously, Ventures of their defensive coordinator out of the running. Thank God, he's not a good coach at all. The Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka is not. It doesn't appear he's in the mix anymore. Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who was emerged as one of the favorites, decided to stay in Dallas. Sean Payton just said, "I'm not coaching Kyler Murray." Frank Reich, of course, took the head coach job in Carolina, and DeMeco Ryans, just told, cancel his interview just so he can focus on the Texans job, and of course, he ended up taking that job. So, Lou Anarumo, the Bengals defensive coordinator, did get a second interview, and it's not confirmed that there's been no announcement that he's at the race, but it appears it is Jonathan Gannon's job to lose. They interviewed him yesterday. He's considered. Really the only finals that's still in the running right now, so it appears I think it looks like he'll get the job. I wouldn't be surprised if Jonathan Gannon is named their head coach in the next, I could even see 24 hours. I would say next 48 hours, I could see him being their next head coach. So we'll see what Arizona does there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still looking for a new offensive coordinator after they fired by Ron Leftwich and basically their entire offensive staff. Basically, to hide the fact that Tom Brady was washed this year and that Todd Bowles is just clueless. Great defensive coordinator, but is clueless as a head coach. Why he's there, I have no clue. But they interviewed the Lions running backs coach Scotty Montgomery, who just got that job. The running backs coach Deuce Staley left for another running back coach job somewhere else. I think in Carolina, he followed Frank Reich, another good assistant coach that Frank Reich brought along. He just got that job, and now he might leave. So we'll see what happens. I just want to mention this. With Andy Reid's second Super Bowl win, I think he's up there with the greatest head coaches of all time. He's in that category, like a tier 1 of head coaches, with Belichick, Don Shula, Vince Lombardi, Chuck Noll. If you want to put Tom Landry in that category, I think he's up there. I would say he's probably top 7 head coach of all time. And by the way, he said he's plans to stick around. He said that when Teddy Bradshaw interviewed him. That was pretty funny. He's like, you can get the big guy in here. Well, why am I over here? Yeah, that got him some flack online. Obviously, as usual, people overreacted, but that was kind of funny. Like, whoa, buddy. That was a little much. And my last thing for you guys, Derek Carr is going to be cut probably in the next couple of hours. They tried to trade him. The Saints had actually agreed on the Saints had agreed on the compensation, but Derek Carr refused to trade his no trade clause. So first, will cut him. Otherwise, they'll be guaranteed they'll have to pay him $40 million guaranteed. That becomes guaranteed, I think, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So he'll be, I would assume, within at least the next 24 hours, probably even sooner. And he's gonna have a robust market. You give him some weapons. He's a solid quarterback. He'd probably get you to the playoffs. I heard the Saints could still sign him for agency. I heard the Jets are interested in him. If it wasn't for them bringing Hackett and getting that connection to Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr would probably be the favorite to be the guy who I would want Carr if it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers. And I see the Commanders may bring him in. The Commanders defensive coordinator is Jack Del Rio, who used to be head coach of the Raiders. They need the quarterback. They got pieces there. They have a defense there, which he's never had the Raiders. They got some nice weapons over there. So we'll see what happens. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.